before the break. Can Edmonton make it 3 straight to send Oil Country into the weekend on a high? We'll get you set for the Oilers and the Avalanche right here on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream Pregame Show. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Pregame Show. Hope you're doing well on this lovely Friday. The Oilers taking on the Colorado Avalanche. Tom Gazzola with you alongside Hernan, Salas back at ESTHQ. I'm coming at you from the Edmonton Sports Talk Satellite Studios just outside of Ice District. Join the conversation. Text us 780-218-9999. Get to the nasty chat as well. Hit that thumbs up button, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. It's going to be a fun show heading into what should be a great weekend. The final game before the Four Nations face-off, and the Oilers 34-16-4 on the season. Colorado 32-22-2. It is game number 55 for the Orange and Blue. Of course, GCL Diesel, providers of the best diesel engine components around, from turbochargers to injectors, fuel pumps to sensors. They are the critical engine component experts, proud to serve Edmonton and Northern Alberta for over 50 years. Nancito, the Latino Heat. How are you, buddy? Hernan, are you there? There you are.
Yeah, sorry about that. Good, man. You know, keeping it real here. Keeping it real here, dog. And last game for us for a couple weeks. And then it's go time. You know, it's the final stretch. Oilers will kick off a 5-game road trip on their return. And then it's the playoffs. And looking forward to this one tonight, Tom. As every time these two teams meet, it's great. And it's been interesting because the Oilers have won the first two in Denver. So Denver definitely seeking some revenge tonight. So should be a fun one down at Rogers Place. Wish I could be there for a game with these two teams, but the TV will have to do tonight.
Ron Hextall says Hernan is gangsta.
Oh, I don't know about that. Studio gangster.
Studio gangster. Microphone assassin.
Like Easy told Snoop and Dre back in the early 90s when they were beefing, Tom. I bet you didn't know that.
I'm sure I've heard it somewhere down the line, and it just didn't sink in with me as I was listening to Weezer, you know?
I like Weezer too, man.
Yeah, Weezer was great. Weezer was great. Still are great. Anyway, it should be a fun night down at Rogers Place. I was there earlier. I just want to give a shout out to Cody and Neil from Boston Pizza. They were skating with the alumni today. Great to see those guys. Davin from Green Plan, also excellent to see him. And you know what, Nanso, our game analyst, Matt Cassian, was excellent today. Set him up for a couple of goals. So
he's like a star there, eh? All I hear about Cass is he's dangling. He's dancing.
Well, he knows he has to answer to nobody out there, so he can do whatever he wants.
Makes it easier, right?
Yeah. Chris Dingman wasn't out there, so Cass could dipsy doodle and do whatever he wants. Paxton Schulte was out there. Good to see Ben Scrivens. Tyler Bunz was in net. That was good to see Bunzy. And then Dougie Hicks was there. Who else? It was a great skate. Kevin Carius, always a pleasure to skate with KK. And we had a lot of fun. But I just wanted to give the boys at BP's, Cody and Neil, a shout out. And a shout out to our crew down at BP Westgate. Hernan, we were there the other night. That was excellent. Again, thank you to everybody who came out. Tony and Curtis, Faith, and that whole crew. We're going to be back down there when the Oilers return to action in late February. We're going to be there on the 27th, Boston Pizza Westgate, 170th Street and 90th Ave. A lot of great giveaways, as always. They have their tailgate party, by the way, that's going to be happening on Sunday from 2 to 4. If you're on the West End, you want to pop in somewhere. They've got for $10, Nanso, you get a beer and a classic burger for $10, and all proceeds go to the Ben Stelter Foundation. So that's a great endeavor there. And then come down to Century Casino Sports Bar and Lounge to hang out with us for the Super Bowl. It's going to be absolutely tremendous. We're looking forward to that. No TVs will be broken this year. I feel like that's
not if Matty Wanek has something to say about it.
I love Matty. I was watching and listening to him earlier today. He's like, no pyramids, absolutely no pyramids. And Dusty just kept pushing and poking and pushing. And I think Matthew wins in this regard. I think he'll get his way.
Yes, I agree. I concur.
You can. Thank you. I appreciate that very much. All right. Text us 780-218-9999. We're going to get to the question of the night right away. We've got Megan Angley joining us. She's quickly become a favorite on this program. She, of course, from Guerrilla Sports in Denver. And then Cass will also hop on for Game Changers around about 6:35 or so. Last game before the break. Lots of good energy. I feel like there's a lot of excitement now. So I was walking back and forth from the rink in my place. And a lot of Oilers jerseys, obviously, a lot of Avalanche jerseys. They were a team that's won won 3 Stanley Cups in their 30 years in the, what are they at now? Yeah, just about 30. They're coming up on 30 years in the NHL as the Avalanche. Of course, the Quebec Nordiques prior to that. So it should be a really, really fun game tonight, and we'll see how things go. Before I get to starting lineups, Nanso, do you have a question of the night for us?
Yeah.
Lay it on us.
So we discussed this a bit on the afternoon show, but I think it's a good question because I think right up until Rantanen got traded, it was Leon, McDavid, McKinnon, Rantanen, toe-to-toe. It was.
Yep.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
and if Oiler fans get offended by that, oh well. Now that he's moved on, the question I was posing to everybody, and everybody it went off on different rails, like Dusty and Chicken Fingers, Tommy and Short Shorts. No one was taking it serious, so I hope on the pregame show we take it serious. If not, let's just have some fun. But Tommy, who is the best duo right now in the NHL behind Leon and Connor? Because there's no one better. I'm sorry. That's just facts. That's not being a homer.
Ooh.
But now that Rantanen has moved on, who would you say has the best duo after the Oilers' top duo?
Damn, good question. Very good question. This might come as a bit of a sleep. Like, I like Scheifele, Connor, and Winnipeg.
That's what I said, yeah.
That's a great one. But one that might not be on everyone's radar, especially in the West, is Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt.
I said that one too. Look at that.
They're having a great year.
Every time one of those guys scores, they're getting the assist.
Yes.
Okay. Gager said, "Can we use defenseman?" Because he went and Koob as well. They went Makar McKinnon as a duo. Does that count?
I think that's fine. It's just harder for those positions as soon as you throw a defenseman into the mix to be able to have the same volume of production as two forwards, guys who generally play together on the same line or are out there together on power play time. But I think it's valid, and McKinnon's kind of the exception. But yeah. I just think, like, if you're putting a duo of forwards together, and then you have a duo with one forward and one defenseman, I think 9 times out of 10 the forwards win over the forward with defenseman, and that's nothing to take away from the defenseman. It's just the goal of a blue liner is to defend his own zone. Or her own zone.
And necessarily it doesn't have to be that they play together. Because the 4 guys you mentioned, Scheifele and Kyle Connor, and then Jesper Bratt and Jack Hughes, they play together. But there can be other duos because Leon and McDavid don't play together all the time, right?
Right.
McKinnon and Rantanen didn't play together all the time. True. Right? So it just 2 powerhouse duos like Matthews Marner, or would Nylander slide in there? Because I think Nylander might be, I don't know, man. Toronto's a tough one.
Don't get me wrong. I only casually glance at whatever's coming our way via Toronto when it's on our national networks, and I don't really absorb it. Part of it is because I'm from here and I don't really care what the Leafs are doing. Now, when they're facing the Oilers, then I'll dial it in a little bit. But I generally associate Matthews and Marner together, and Nylander always as like the third guy and on a different line. And I'm sure there's times where that combination or the combo switches depending on how things are going, right? Like maybe you need a shakeup, but to me, it's always Matthews and Marner, right?
Yeah. Here, Joe says, I think Nylander's Toronto's best player. So.
Oh, like right now?
Yeah.
Or because it's Austin Matthews. Let's not kid ourselves. Like this year, Matthews has been hurt.
Yeah.
Tavares has had a good year. So has Marner. But Nylander, the last 2 seasons, has been very consistent.
Mm-hmm.
I thought he got off to a slow start, if I'm recalling that correctly this year. But outside of that, he's put together some damn good seasons, and that's just fortunate for the Maple Leafs that they drafted and developed these guys. And Nylander has become a star in the league, a quasi superstar.
Yeah, and we're getting lots for Kucherov and Point.
They get forgotten sometimes too. That's a good combination. Absolutely. I think it's a little bit subjective, but I think the de facto number 2 in Rantanen and McKinnon was just broken up. And now all of a sudden we're searching for answers like this. It's kind of neat. I'm not going to lie to you.
So we're going to land on the Winnipeg and Devils duel. Because I agree with you. Those are the first 2 I said.
Yeah. I mean, they've been doing it for a while, especially Connor and Scheifele. Yeah. So would you throw in like Reinhart and Barkov or Reinhart and Matthews by any chance down in Florida?
Yeah, I think I would.
You would?
To a lesser extent, like you have Tkachuk and Stützle in Ottawa.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, are Marchand and Pasternak still a good one?
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so.
Rupe Hintz and Robertson or Wyatt Johnson. Like, you can go through every team and find the top duels. Yeah, they have.
Yeah.
Eichel and Stone would be Vegas. Kopitar and Kempe would be L.A.
I like Kopitar and Kempe. I know I'm not supposed to say that, but I watch them and I'm like, those guys are good.
I like Joel says, Palmieri and Lee. I like that one.
Joel, how many beverages deep are we? I'm kidding.
A lot of people are saying Connor and Scheifele don't count because they have too many power play points. Last time I checked, they all count the same, man.
They really do. They really do.
All
right, let's keep those coming our way. Text us 780-218-9999. Get into the nasty chat. Let's get into starting lineups brought to you by South Fort Chev. Reserve your 2025 Equinox tracks in Traverse now. They won't last long. They've also got the best discounts on 2025 Silverados, and they won't be beat. See dealer for details at www.southfortchev.com. For the Oilers, this is how we expect them to skate tonight. McDavid between Arvidsson and Hyman. A little bit of a different look there. Nugent Hopkins with Jeff Skinner and Vasily Podkolzin. That's Draisaitl with Jeff Skinner and Podkolzin. Nugent Hopkins sliding down to the third line at center with Janmark and Brown. Adam Henrique between Corey Perry and Kasperi Kapanen. Of course, the Oilers sending down Noah Philp back to Bakersfield last night. The Oil on the back end tonight. Ekholm with Bouchard, Nurse with Klingberg, Kulak paired up with Emberson. This is how the Avs skated last night in Calgary, a 4-2 victory at the Saddle Dome. Nathan McKinnon between Arturi Lehkonen and Marty Necas. Casey Middlestat with Jonathan Drouin and Juuso Parssinen. Jack Drury centering Miles Wood and Ross Colton. Parker Kelly with Joel Kiviranta and Logan O'Connor. On the back end, Devon Taves with Cale Makar. Samuel Girard with Sam Malinsky, and Calvin DeHaan with Oliver Shillington. Your starting goalies for tonight: 26-year-old Stuart Skinner, 2012 and 4 on the season. Skinner a .268 goals against average, .902 save percentage in 36 games this season. Stu versus the Avs, 4-1-2, .263 GAA, .923 save percentage in 7 appearances versus Colorado over the course of his career. And then here's where it gets interesting. At the other end of the rink, will feature 24-year-old Trent Miner, 0-1 record, .262 goals against average, .879 save percentage in 2 games this season. He will obviously face Edmonton for the first time in his career. We're going to ask Megan Angley about Trent Miner in a minute or two, but we got to get to the Advantage Sports Medicine and Physiotherapy Injury Report. At Advantage Sports Medicine and Physiotherapy, we treat you like the pros. Our multidisciplinary team includes sports medicine physicians, along with highly skilled physiotherapists, strength and conditioning coaches, and massage therapists. If you have a nagging pain you'd like to see go away, book your consultation today at www.advantagesportsmed.ca. For the Oilers, Alec Regula, IR knee. Evander Kane, LTIR, abdominal surgery, knee surgery. For the Avalanche, Josh Manson, day-to-day, lower body. Scott Wedgwood, day-to-day, upper body. Valerie Nichushkin, IR lower body. Gabriel Landeskog, IR knee. Tucker Pullman, IR head. There is your Advantage Sports Medicine and Physiotherapy Injury Report. Visit them at www.advantagesportsmed.ca. Megan Angley is good to go. We're going to get her to join us now right here on the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. Text us 780-218-9999. Get into the nasty chat if you're watching on YouTube. All right, Megan, let's start with the goaltending there. Trent Miner, 24 years old. No idea. No clue. You cover the Colorado Eagles a little bit. Tell us what we're going to see, because I'll tell you right now, Oilers fans are worried that they're going to get goalied by a guy who's barely played in the NHL. Why? Because it's happened a bunch of times before.
Okay, I want to start off first. I'm not sure if Trent Miner will start tonight, unless you've heard otherwise.
Okay, maybe I'm incorrect.
And only reason, it's very logical that Trent Miner would start second leg of a back-to-back. Wedgwood, his status has been unknown. Blackwood has started many of the last games for Colorado. But because he is so inexperienced, I don't know that the trust is there, and they might just throw everything at Edmonton and put Mackenzie Blackwood in back-to-back games. So I'm not ruling that out. And Wedgwood, traveling with the team, he was listed as day-to-day with an upper body thing, and there was hope and expectation that he would play on the road trip. So I won't rule that out either, that he might be good to go in this one, and they put Wedgwood in. The thing with Trent Miner, this is a player that I have hope around, but he's assumed this backup job in a call-up capacity kind of under duress. I don't think that was the plan from the organization with Trent Miner, so that's the only reason I'm not confident that they would throw him into the gauntlet against Edmonton. This is a player that I think they hoped at best this season was going to assume a starter's role in the American League full-time for the first time. He kind of just broke through the East Coast barrier this year, so this is a young goaltender. He's come in relief this year for the Avs, and he did a great job, but because he is so young, I don't know that he's earned Edmonton Oilers' trust just yet.
Ooh, I like it. Okay, so Blackwood, you said last night he had a good night against the Calgary Flames. Give us the scoop on how much of a revelation he's been for the Colorado Avalanche after getting rid of Alexander Georgiev.
Blackwood has been such a stabilizing force for the Avs that I think that they've had to maybe look inwards at themselves as a team and how they're playing in front of him at times to make sure that they're doing their best to play well and support him in their own end, because he has earned so much trust in giving them a chance to win on a nightly basis and keeping games within a one-goal striking distance no matter the night and no matter the opponent. And he's been a huge factor on their penalty kill. It's been a good unit, and it's now been complemented by good goaltending. And so I think having a goaltender that you can trust is something that they need to get adjusted to. There is a trauma response at the start of the year and not knowing what to expect on a nightly basis in net. And so I think the Avs were a little bit conditioned around some of that panic, some of that fear, and they'd overcomplicate things at times. They've got a good goaltender that they can count on now, and he's demonstrated enough now consistently over a wide spread of games that he's got this in net.
Just like saying Georgiev, by the way, if you haven't caught on to that. All right, so the Avs win yesterday at the Saddle Dome, 4-2 victory. They come into town. I saw them rolling into the rink. For the most part, not many players after playing last night, mostly the staff. Give us the scoop on that win in Calgary, because It is a tumultuous time for these Colorado Avalanche. A huge shakeup with the trade a couple of weeks ago. What did you like about their game last night?
I liked the response on the heels of a bad Vancouver Canucks game. They didn't play very well against Vancouver, and the opening period against Calgary left a lot to be desired. It fell a little bit flat, and there was concern that maybe they hadn't learned the lessons from the Vancouver game, and it carried over. But at the start of the second period, Cale Makar, he's a leader on this team for a reason, in less than 2 minutes' time, gets the Avs on the board after a goal was taken back in that first period. That could have been deflating. Instead of allowing themselves to get hung up on that, though, Cale Makar paves the way, and it's followed up by even more with that top line supporting them. Necas has been playing amazing next to Nathan MacKinnon. So 3-point night for Nathan MacKinnon, 2-goal night from Necas, follows Cale Makar kind of opening up that period because the intensity was matched by the rest of the team after that moment. And that was where there was concern. They needed to play with a little bit more intensity, especially after a disappointing loss. And that's where I think the maturity of the group kind of shined through. And they could have kept this a 3-1 game. I like that Necas and the goal scoring of that top line doesn't stop after they secure a little bit of a lead. And it's a good thing because Calgary finds a second goal later in the third period. So overall, I like that the Avs didn't just stop when the game got to a comfortable place for them, and they found what they needed to in between periods 1 and 2 to get the win in Calgary.
Megan Angley joining us now from Guerrilla Sports, covering the Colorado Avalanche. Oilers and Avs closing out the season series. We haven't seen the Avs since mid-January, so obviously, like we were talking about, there's been some big changes. You're around this team. What was your reaction to that trade? Because I think it was an audible gasp around the National Hockey League, all corners of it. What has it been like around the team since? Because that was crazy, Megan, honestly.
It was crazy. It happened around 7 p.m. on a Friday night, and the full details of the trade weren't even available until around 9 p.m. So everybody's losing their minds trying to figure out why Mikko Rantanen's being traded and what the return could possibly be. And I guess the why, I'll put an asterisk by it. This is a top 10 NHL player year by year in a contract year. I think there was always some possibility that this is a player that could get traded if they can't agree to a number between both sides. That's obviously what it boiled down to, but this is a homegrown player that also spent the last decade with the Avs. So that's where a huge piece of the shock factor came into play. And the team, less than 24 hours into the next day, has to play an afternoon game in Boston on the heels of such a shocking trade. They obviously don't win that game. And so I think that's where the shock in the room is immediately felt. This is a player that they've been showing up to the rink with for the last 10 years. They've developed a really close relationship, especially the leaders in that room.
Yeah.
But I also think there was a quick understanding and the immediate return and fit of Necas in Colorado and even Jack Drury. I think winning together with these players so immediately in that New York game helped to stabilize things a little bit. I don't doubt that the friendship between the players will endure with Rantanen and the rest of the core here in Colorado. So I think they're still processing the friendship side of it, but the on-ice part of it, it's given them new life because of the immediate fit of Necas. He's added something different that I think they needed, especially the power play was one of the worst in the league over their last 10-game stretch in January, and they needed something new, and Necas immediately brought that and fit in so well with the group. So I think there's a mixed feeling generally, but overall happiness, and it's still a really positive and upbeat locker room. After the goaltending trade, it just sort of stayed at that place.
How did the fans react? Because, listen, this is going to age me, but I remember when Ryan Smith got traded from Edmonton in 2007, and it gutted the team and it gutted the fan base. How did the fans in Colorado react to that trade?
It divided the fan base into two camps. There was the camp that is devastated that this player that many had jerseys for, he was lovingly called the Moose, and he was such a light and comedic player too, and so he really rounded out the intensity of Nathan MacKinnon, and Cale Makar is a little more stoic, and so there was always the silly and goofy Mikko Rantanen, and so that part of the fan base was just crushed. And then there was the other part of the fan base that thought Mikko Rantanen was greedy. They thought that he overestimated his market value, and this was a huge mistake on his behalf, and to heck with him, he can go kick rocks then. And that's obviously dramatic, but there are people who really thought that he chased the money and they can't forgive it. But honestly, when you look at what happened with Ryan O'Reilly in Colorado, like, it felt very similar. This was a player that was so beloved, but money changed everyone's opinion in the end.
Is there an internal cap? Do we know about this, or do they keep that very hush-hush with the Avalanche? Because there are some teams that actually maintain an internal cap and they won't go above a certain threshold, because that was the first thought I had with the Avs. I'm like, maybe they don't want to push it. And like, I hear about, well, they don't want to pay Rantanen more than what Nathan MacKinnon's getting. And I thought to myself, well, when MacKinnon signed, the dollar value then compared to where it's at now with the market is a little bit different. And MacKinnon's going to get paid again in his next contract when it comes around. So like, does that kind of factor in? Is that an actual thing, or am I reading this wrong?
You're not reading it wrong at all, and I can't take credit for this. Analysts like Pierre LeBrun and Friedman have reported consistently that there was an internal cap with Nathan MacKinnon's contract and that salary. And I think what's interesting is almost the day after the Rantanen trade, it's announced what the new cap ceiling is going to be for the next several years, and it's higher than anybody expected.
Yes.
And so kind of on the heels of that, it still felt a little weird then to have the internal cap be Nathan MacKinnon money if it's about to be such a different ceiling than we were even bracing ourselves for. But I think when you factor in the term that they absorbed with the Val Nichushkin contract after the Cup, and they have a Landeskog to decide around, and then there's a Cale Makar contract coming up in a year and a half, I think it's a little bit internal cap with Nathan MacKinnon. I think that Cale Makar might change that conversation completely in a couple years' time. But they've also reinvested in goaltending. It was a position that they were typically frugal with in the past that they decided to lock in a little more solidly with Mackenzie Blackwood. And so I think the whole of the roster puzzle for years to come in trying to keep this window open is what ultimately decided it. And there is a little bit in the immediate that Nathan MacKinnon internal cap.
Megan Angley joining us from Guerrilla Sports, covering the Colorado Avalanche. If you're listening on iHeartRadio, TuneIn Radio, EdmontonSportsTalk.com's audio player, you can text us 780-218-9999. If you're watching on YouTube, get into the nasty chat as we get you set for the final game between the Oilers and the Avs of the season, and the final game between the Four Nations face-off. Let's look at the Four Nations face-off a little bit. Like, are you excited about this? Because I was talking to some of the players today in the Oilers locker room, and our earlier show, our drive time show, they played a clip of Leon Draisaitl saying it's going to be the best hockey in the world. And listen, he said it facetiously because he's not going to be paying attention. Let's not kid ourselves. Give us your take on this tournament. Is there an actual vibe heading into it? Do people care at all? Like, what do you make of all this?
I have mixed feelings because I think it's better than the All-Star game. And
Agreed.
I think you can get better viewership and more excitement and buzz around this international best-on-best tournament. And it's a good prep for the Olympics coming up. So in that way, I love it. But I also look at players that I think could most use a break right now. And I've got ambitions set on Stanley Cup aspirations. And I'm looking at the usage of Cale Makar right now, and just thinking, wow, maybe a little bit of a break would be great for him. And I'm watching as the status of players like Crosby and Quinn Hughes comes into question, and suddenly my excitement around the tournament is growing a little bit smaller and smaller. But ultimately, I saw the Team Canada gear show up in the Avs locker room, and they were getting it on and wearing it out in practice a little bit. And I won't lie, seeing that did get me a little more excited back around the tournament. I think once these players get to put on those jerseys and represent their countries, I will change my attitude immediately. And because I won't be doing anything else, actually I will be covering college hockey and a little bit of the American League, I will still be excited to tune in. I will be tuning in. I don't know that the marketing has reached many people outside of hockey, though, so that's the kind of unfortunate part of all of it.
Good point. Okay, so we know Canada's going to win this thing. What's your case for the U.S. to finish second?
Goaltending. I think that the goaltending could be a secret weapon for Team USA. And I don't know. I I've had different conversations with people about the respective teams. I think Canada gets its flowers, so I don't know that it's underrated. I think it's rated appropriately, but I think Team USA doesn't maybe get some credit for some of the talent that will be there, and I guess it's a little bit questionable if Quinn Hughes plays or not.
I'm not going to lie to you. I think the U.S. actually wins this thing. I just like joking about Canada and U.S. All right, Megan. Both teams probably very close to empty when it comes to the tank. What kind of hockey game do you expect tonight between the Oilers and the Avs?
I'm nervous because the Avs have not played well against Edmonton this season, and I've come on here a couple times now, and I've hoped for a tighter game. And the Avs started things so promising back in Ball Arena in January, right? They got a 2-goal Nathan MacKinnon performance, a Logan O'Connor depth contribution. You couldn't write it better, right? Well, they let it slip through their fingers. So I'm trying to be realistic. And what I'm looking for on the heels of what was such a great performance from Colorado Stars against Calgary are some more of those depth contributions. So this is where I really want to see Colorado's depth challenge Edmonton's depth line by line. And I think Edmonton, especially up top, the forward depth, is pretty deep. So this is where I want to see some of the Jack Drury in that third line with a Miles Wood who missed almost 2 months of hockey. I want to see them push, and I want to see them empty the tank, like you said, throw everything but the kitchen sink because you're getting a 2-week break. Nathan MacKinnon, Kel McCarr, Arturi Lehkonen, Taves, they might not be getting the break, so I'm really looking at the depth. And then I'm still uncertain what the goaltending is, but if Mackenzie Blackwood wants to continue to be exactly what he has been so far, then I think the Avs have a good chance to make this a closer game. They also need to be really disciplined. I think Edmonton's power play is too much of a lethal threat. And the PK has been great for Colorado, but I'd rather them not be undisciplined. I think that's come up a little bit for them lately, so I'd like to see them figure that out too.
Is there still bitter taste from that come from behind loss that they had against the Oilers at Ball Arena? Do you think that's still top of mind for them?
I hope that it is. Look, I want to describe the state of that locker room post-game. It was very devastated and frustrated, maybe is the better word, with themselves for having the game slip through their fingers. And I bring that up a lot with tonight's preview on other shows that I've done because I want them to remember the sting of that game. It did not feel good.
It shouldn't have because they had it in hand. Megan, always a pleasure. Enjoy the Four Nations face-off. Enjoy tonight's game, and always a pleasure. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks for having me back.
Megan Angley from Guerrilla Sports, covering the Colorado Avalanche. Great stuff from her. Follow her on social media. She is very thorough, excellent, and a great new reporter in the National Hockey League. It is Mackenzie, the National Hockey League. It is Mackenzie Blackwood that is going tonight, not Trent Miner. So we will adapt on the fly and adjust that as we welcome in our game analyst, Matt Cassian, for Game Changers. Good evening, Cass. How you doing? I heard you were coughing a little bit there, but I think you're good to go. You had a very thorough skate earlier in the day. We're getting Cass on here.
Yeah, not
You're
ready
muted.
yet. I
not ready.
Recrop because he goes into Megan's spot. So give me like 20 seconds here, and
I'll give him 20 seconds. All right, so there you go. It is going to be Mackenzie Blackwood tonight for the Colorado Avalanche. That is as per Connor McGahey, play-by-play voice of the Avs. All right, Cass is going to join us for a second, or in a second here. Blackwood, by the way, if you're wondering about his stats, so no Trent Miner. So you fret not about the getting goalied by a guy who's barely played in the NHL. He was anticipated to start. That won't be the case. It is Mackenzie Blackwood, the 28-year-old, 19, 15, and 5 this season in 40 games, split between the Avs and the Sharks. 249 GAA, 918 save percentage, 3 shutouts. Blackwood versus Edmonton, 5 games all-time versus the Oilers, a 2-1-1 record, 350 GAA, 890 save percentage. So Skinner versus Blackwood are your starters. That was confirmed just a few minutes ago. All right, Cass is ready to go. Thank you, Hernan, for getting that ready to rock. Cass, how are you? We had a great skate today. I gave a shout out to Neil, Cody, and the boys, Neil and Cody from BP, Davin from Green Plan. I set you up on a nice goal. You scored on Tyler Buns. I came in there like in a tizzy. I was rushing in, so it was fun though.
Yeah, and I all of a sudden saw you on the ice when you started calling for it, and I was like, no, he's here, which was good. Yeah, it was a good time. Always a good time skating out there with the fellas. So yeah, it was a good day. And now Tom, we're getting ready for that last one before the break, as has been discussed already. Could be an interesting game tonight, and could be a really fun game tonight. We'll see.
Cass, we did some work on the ice. Now we'll do some work off the ice as we get you set for the Oilers and the Avalanche. It's time for Game Changers, brought to you by Damon Bunting Real Estate. Damon Bunting, a consistent top-producing realtor in the greater Edmonton area for over 17 years. He and his team would love to help you find that right home or make the move from your current home. He's community-driven and understands what it takes to make a difference in our city. So check him out, DamonBunting.com. Or visit his Instagram at Damon Bunting Real Estate. Number 1, Cass, swivel heads.
Yeah, well, hey, no Mikko Rantanen, but still Cale Makar. And, not surprising the amount of points he's putting up, one of the premier defensemen in the world. And he loves to generate from all areas of the ice. More important than ever when you're playing these type of guys. And this is a conversation that I guarantee you is going on in the Edmonton Oilers locker room as to, hey, you got to take a look here. You got to find Cale Makar because, he may be carrying the puck up the ice because he does. He will jump into the rush, but he also loves to a little sneaky creep into the zone. Like if the other team, so if Colorado has puck possession, Cale Makar loves to slide into open space into the high spot. You'll see him kind of sneak in a little bit, then back out, then sneak in a little bit, then back out. And for Edmonton Oilers wingers, you have to be aware of it, particularly in the top 6. The guys are going to see him the most. Now, he plays a lot of the hockey game, so even the bottom 6 are going to see him. Really, really important tonight that you are aware of where Cale Makar is on the ice. And even if you are, it's still going to be tough to skate with him. He's a pretty explosive guy, moves very, very well. And you have to anticipate when he's going to creep, when he's going to jump in zone. For the Edmonton Oilers, I mean, that's always a challenge, right? It is always a challenge. If we go back to things that they don't always do well, finding late people off the rush isn't one of those things. And defensive zone coverage, at times, they can get leaky. And this is an area where other teams have found, at times, the ability to expose them. So something they have to really bear down with tonight is just that defensive zone awareness. Heads on a swivel, know where your guy is, know particularly where Cale Makar is, because he's going to be trying to find those soft spots in your coverage to generate some offense for the Colorado Avalanche.
Cale Makar, 60 points in 56 games. No surprise there. Having another stellar season. The best defenseman in the world. I still think I would take him over Quinn Hughes, Cass. And that's just my personal preference. And there's nothing against Quinn Hughes is phenomenal. But Cale Makar,
I'd take either of them. Well, let's be real.
Yeah,
they're both like.
Yeah. But if you were to say, hey, which one do you want to take? You can pick. I'll take Cale Makar.
I'm probably leaning towards Cale Makar.
Yeah.
That's a lean, not a like a. It's still like a.
Yeah, you're just like.
Yeah, I mean they're both spectacular. I take them both.
That's a win and a win if you have a choice at either one of those guys. All right, that was number 1 on Game Changers. Swivel heads. Number 2, Cass, the big matchup.
Yeah, the matchup between Nathan MacKinnon and Leon Draisaitl. I mean, how can we not have this? And you could throw Connor McDavid in the mix, and normally we'd throw Rantanen into. He's not here anymore, so let's stick with Draisaitl and McKinnon battling it out right now for the top points position in the NHL. Cale Makar retaking the lead with 83 points. Leon Draisaitl close behind with 81 points with a couple of games in hand. I mean, listen, 2 of the premier players in the league, barring injury, most likely one of those 2 guys wins the scoring race. Now, one of the other guys that's chasing him, McDavid in particular, could they catch him? Yes, they could. There's still time left, but most likely it's going to be a battle between these 2, and we could see that swing back and forth between them. And Draisaitl's asked about it, and he, of course, he's aware. Says that he's aware and he thinks about it, and his job is to not overly think about it, not just to try to get points for the sake of winning the scoring race. He wants to win hockey games and wants to win in the playoffs. That's his focus, rightfully so. But come on, Tom. He is aware of it. He wants, if it fits, he wants to win that scoring race, and so does Nathan MacKinnon. Especially with, I don't want to say the Avalanche, their cup aspirations are gone. They're not wiped, but they're a lot less than they were a month ago. And for him to say, well, the chances of them winning the cup, it's still there, but getting slimmer and slimmer, and barring a massive push. I mean, who knows what happens, but this is going to mean a lot to him to want to win that scoring race again. So you're going to have a battle between two guys that are in their prime, that are two of the best players in the world. Two guys in the top 5 in the world right now on the ice, playing for the Colorado Avalanche and the Edmonton Oilers. Tom, it's a fun matchup. It's a fun matchup. Now McKinnon, he scores goals in a different manner than Leon Draisaitl. He's not just a one-timer type of guy as the dog pushes his way into the room to come hang out. He is a guy that, and we have seen him do it against the Oilers, he will beat you with explosiveness. He will beat you with his strength through the middle of the ice. He'll split defensemen and sometimes make you look silly. Very, very highly skilled as well. So a tall order for Leon, going head-to-head with a guy that he wants to beat tonight. But, Tom, it's just a fun matchup. I mean, you're seeing some of the best players in the world, so it's a blast. It'll be even without Rantanen, it's still going to be a lot of fun.
Heading into action tonight, Nathan MacKinnon has retaken the top spot in league, scoring 83 points, 20 goals, 63 assists. Draisaitl, 2 games less than MacKinnon this season, 38 goals, 43 assists, 81 points. Draisaitl plus 27, Cass. MacKinnon a plus 17. Dusty and I were talking about it earlier on the Oil Stream this afternoon. The fact that MacKinnon only has 20 goals and has so many assists, like when it comes down to Hart Trophy voting, do you think that 2063 where we're at right now for goals and assists for MacKinnon, that disparity between goals and assists will factor in? And me, I think Draisaitl has had the better year, quote unquote.
Yep. I think it could and it does. It could and it does. And with the reason being is, not on every goal. Sometimes there's goals with no assists. Sometimes there's 1, but sometimes there can be 2. Yeah. And even if you're that secondary assist, or even if you're the primary assist, rather, people would generally view, and I would as well, it's easier to get assists than goals. That's why I had more goals than assists. They're the harder thing to do.
Obviously.
Right? Obviously. Didn't have very many assists. But I think for most people, that probably pushes the needle, especially if the scoring's close. Like if MacKinnon, let's say he gets even hotter and he runs away with it and beats Draisaitl by 15 points. It's a little bit more, I think, of a swing towards MacKinnon on that. But if they're close, like if they're within 3 to 5 points at the end of the year, and let's say MacKinnon does outpace Draisaitl, it's going to be pretty hard if the goal disparity remains as big as it is between the two of them for people not to vote for Leon Draisaitl. Now, the counter is that, Rantanen's gone and MacKinnon is having to do more by himself. That's going to be the counter argument to there. So it'll be an interesting race regardless of who wins it. But I would say the goal disparity at this point right now, if the voting was today, maybe pushes it slightly in the favor of Leon Draisaitl.
I get it. It is Game Changers with our game analyst, Matt Cassian. Game Changers is always brought to you by Damon Bunting Real Estate. Damon Bunting now with the agency. Tom Gazzola, Cass with you, as well as Hernan, Salas. You can text us 780-218-9999. Get into the nasty chat as well. We've gone through 2 points on Game Changers. Number 1 was Swivel Heads. Number 2 was the big matchup. Then we talked about the race for the Art Ross between Nathan MacKinnon and Leon Draisaitl. Number 3, Cass, I like this one, Hawaii.
Yeah, don't get visions of beach too stuck in your head. These last games before long breaks, for anyone that's not going to the Four Nations, really hard not to be thinking about where you're going tomorrow, particularly for the Edmonton Oilers guys and for Colorado too, Mountain City. Now, not as much snow, not quite as cold there. I get that. But a lot of the guys are thinking about their travel plans and about their stuff that they maybe have packed or that they will be packing. And, they got the flowery shirts ready to go. They got the short shorts, just like Tommy Gazzola would wear on the beach. They got them ready to go. And
very comfortable.
Very, very comfortable, very exposing, and you get a little vitamin D. Listen, they are...
a lot.
Yeah, a lot of vitamin D.
That's a terrible joke.
It's true though, but
yeah.
Listen, they're human. They are human, despite how sometimes we build them up to not be, and we expect them to perform at an incredible level all the time. These are real people with real families and real friends and a real need at times for a break. I mean, that's a real thing. And someone pointed out in our last post-game show about how, how's your job performance the last day before you leave for a vacation? It's like, it's really easy to mail it in. It's really easy to mail it in. Looking at this game tonight, I think that the team that is able to overcome that a little bit more probably is a team that wins the hockey game, because it is, Tom, it's tough to not think about that. These guys need to find a way here tonight to put the vacation aside, put the beach aside for 60 plus minutes of game time, and find a way to win a hockey game and go into your break feeling really good about yourself, because the tendency, and a very human tendency, is going to be thinking about that trip.
Cass, logistically, put yourself back into your playing days. You have this scenario where you're going into a 2-week break and you can get out of here and go somewhere warmer. Like what's Mandy doing? Like, how are you prepping for this? And then at the same time, trying to dial it in for 3 hours.
Well, I knew I was probably going to be a healthy scratch, so it wasn't as big of a deal for me. But listen, and it's different. It would be different now with kids, because you're trying to get the kids ready and all that too. And we had the Olympic break back when I played, and I think we went to the Bahamas for a couple of days. So we had like 8 or 9 days, and I think we went for 4 or 5 to the Bahamas just to get out of Dodge and get some beach time, which was amazing, and very fortunate we're able to do that. Listen, not much would change. She's way better at packing and thinking through what we're actually going to need. I'm just kind of like, well, I'll need 1 pair of shorts, because why would you need more? Maybe 1 shirt, maybe 1 other thing, and I'm good, which, isn't really appropriate. That's why she helps me with my organization. So she'd probably be the one driving the ship in terms of making sure everyone's ready and ready to go, because she's great with that, and I am not. But really, it would be. I mean, if you're leaving the next day, you got to have everything packed. Got to be ready to go. If you're flying out from Edmonton, depending on if you leave, that first day after, it's like, you're probably not going somewhere close. If you are going on a trip somewhere, it's going to take a little while. So chances are you could have to be up pretty early into the airport. So it's just really hard mentally to not be thinking about that. It really is. So how do you combat it? Well, I mean, we'll call it the power of positive thinking, and that you just have to find a way to completely shut that part of your brain off and repetitively have positive self-talk in your mind about focusing on the game and playing the game and the little things that you need to do, because otherwise, you can get 5 steps ahead of yourself.
Cass, I'd have you in the lineup just for the record.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
You know it. Game Changers brought to you as always by Damon Bunting Real Estate. Number 1, Swivel Heads. Number 2, the big matchup. And you just heard number 3, Hawaii. Let's bring the Latino Heat back in. We haven't heard from him in a few minutes. Nanso, the question of the night, I saw some responses to it. I'm kind of curious to hear what Cass would say to the question of the night. You want to lay it on us one more time?
Yeah. I can't even remember. Been so long. Oh yeah.
Second, what's the? Go ahead.
Sorry, with Rantanen moving on from Colorado now, because Rantanen and McKinnon were always right there with the duo of Leon and Connor. So, Cass, now that he's gone, who would you say is the top duo in the NHL behind Leon and Connor?
Oh, the top duo behind Leon and Connor. Man, it may be hard to get away. I hate doing that though. I hate going to Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner.
Ooh.
Yeah, I hate to do that, but I kind of have to, because I'm trying to think through like other teams. You have like the Aho and Carolina now with Rantanen in there. Yeah, that's a pretty stinking good duo, but maybe not quite at the same level. And there's no one really else. Lots of other teams have good 1-2 punches, but not at that same level. I got to do it. I got to go with Toronto.
How about this, Cass? We were saying Jack Hughes, Jesper Pratt. because they always connect for goals.
Yeah.
And the other one we had was Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele.
Connor and Scheifele could be one. Yeah, that would be up there.
Kucherov Point.
And Kucherov Point, pretty good. Again, like there's lots of good duos, but not quite at the same level, I don't think. I still got to go Toronto guys, which again just makes me sick to my stomach. But I think they're the best, the next best, not the best, but the best outside of McDavid, Draisaitl in terms of 1-2 punch.
That Senator's tattoo is shining brightly.
Oh, it's burning right now. That's how it's designed.
Burning.
How dare you, traitor! I thought you were one of us, Matthew. Cass, as always, my friend, great stuff, and I look forward to catching up with you on the post-game show.
Sounds good, guys.
Yeah,
that is our game analyst, the one and only Matt Cassian. Excellent, as always, on Game Changers, brought to you by Damon Bunting Real Estate. Damon Bunting, now with the agency. All right, Nancito, a couple more minutes here. I saw some combinations that people were throwing out. Ryan from Sask says Salas and Gazzola? Haha. And then adds in a serious answer, Kucherov and Point. But yeah, we have a good combination. I would add Cass in there, and I'd say that'd be a damn good line. Like skill, muscle from Cass, and then you'd be like a junkyard dog. You'd have the finish. You'd be digging deep. You'd be fighting and mucking in the corners, and then Cass and I would be like supporting you.
I'd be a modern day Esa Tikkanen.
Yes.
All right. Yeah,
yes.
I like that.
Yeah, and then you can spit some.
Not
Espanol
a rat, a pest.
Pest. I love it. That would be great. Juan texting in says, "Evening, gents. Darlene and Power / Byram could be dominant, if not in Buffalo. Touche. Yeah, Buffalo cannot get things sorted out, hey?
No, they can't. Man, yeah, it's just the duos are. It's an interesting topic, Tom. I know. We should have dove more into it earlier, but it's fascinating because I think Cass makes a good point for the longevity of it. Might have to be the Toronto guys.
Ooh, very consistent. Very consistent. Tube Socks. Okay, Tube Socks says Austin Matthews is the Dave Taylor of Dale Howarchucks.
Hey, those are pretty good players, but I mean, come on, Austin Matthews is an elite. I'm not saying the other guys weren't, but he's one of the best scorers of our time right now.
Joelle says she's only drinking hot chocolate right now.
Oh, okay.
And Maple Jed says, guys, is Makar better than Rantanen? Ooh.
I think if you lined up 31 teams and you said, you get to pick one. Now, it's different because different teams have different needs, but I think most teams would take Makar.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Man, if you could have a guy like that on your back end.
Imagine if the Oilers had Makar.
Instead of Bouchard, look out.
Okay, instead of Ekholm, Bouchard. Because he's that good.
I can't process this right now. I can't.
Maybe that was too much because Ekholm's a stud. I apologize.
Yeah, he's been great. Fat Dan says Barkov, Kachuk, I'd have them over the two Leafs.
That's a good one too, man.
That is a very good one. I brought it up earlier, but yeah, that's a great question of the night, Hernan. I like that one a lot. That's probably top 5 this season, I would think.
Oh, wow.
And we've had some good ones. Thank you.
Yeah, every once in a while I come up with something good, Tommy.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you do. Final thoughts from you, Nancito?
Man, I'm looking forward to this one. Mackenzie Blackwood, back-to-backs. It can be done because many say that you shouldn't. We'll see how he fares tonight. And I'm glad you brought it up with Megan. I forgot they blew a 3-0 lead with Mackenzie Blackwood in net in their last game, which was an awesome game.
Yeah.
One of our best post games. I think we hit over close to 500 views that night. Looking forward to it. Yeah. Looking forward to Jeff Skinner, that is, getting another opportunity, see if Arvidsson can continue to build. And again, I think me and Gage were talking the other day. Klimberg's he's looked good. And the one thing about him that stands out the most is his passing, Tom. Like, the guy is an elite passer. And you can never have enough of those on a team. So I look for the continued play. And I'm also intrigued by Necas. Did I say that right?
Marty Necas, yeah.
I'm intrigued to see him play with Colorado. It's the first time I'm going to get a look at him in his new team. So excited for that. Should be a fun one, man, like it always is. But you got to get to the rink. I got to get to the TV. And let's go. Should be fun.
Big thank you to Megan Angley from Gorilla Sports for hopping on, giving us the scoop on the Colorado Avalanche. She's been excellent. I think we had her on for all 3 Oilers-Avs pregame shows. Good to have her on once again. And then a big thank you to everybody who texted in. A big thank you to everybody who hit up the nasty chat. For everybody that listened, we appreciate you. You know that. And everybody who watched, thank you so very, very much. That's going to do it for the GCL Diesel Oil Stream pregame show. The Oilers and Avalanche closing out the season series. Edmonton looking to sweep the season series. Can they get it done heading into the break? Well, we'll find out in about 2.5 hours. And then after that, join us for the GCL Diesel Oil Stream post-game show. It should be a fun one. Lots of good energy, good vibes on this Friday night. For Hernan, Salas, and Matt Cassian, I'm Tom Gazzola saying enjoy the Oilers and the Avs. We'll see you on the post-game show. Ciao for now.